I was coming in right at 8:30. Had to finish up the last minute dad duties and nighttime stuff, and I was like, all right, gotta go, gotta stay on track, and we got everything done, everything on track, so we're good.
Sweet. Well, what's been up, dude?
Oh my goodness, what hasn't been up? It's been up, down, left, right, forward, backward, there, here, everywhere. It's always refreshing to talk to you because then I can give you other perspectives that other normal people wouldn't understand. So it's like, yeah, no, it's been crazy. You're like, oh, what level of depth are we talking about? Like scale 1 to 10. So it's always fun. So I always got to make sure, like, if you're ready, because it's like, that's a loaded question. What's up? You know what I mean?
I'm ready for it. You know, I'm always down.
No, things have been good. Things have been really good. There's been like a huge like shift in mentality, daily affirmations, like everything is completely different. And it's kind of nice, you know? But I'm like, I'm enjoying it, but at the same time, I think I'm psyching myself out and I'm like waiting for just all of it to come crumbling down. Because I'm like, there's no way I'm just having a good day. I'm just having a good day. Nothing's pissing me off right now. There's no way. So yeah.
What is that, imposter syndrome?
Yes, we were talking about that, I think on our last episode, actually. We were definitely talking about that. I feel that a lot.
But I mean, that like, it's hard because it's like, you know, what did I do to deserve this? But at the same time, it's like, in the universe, it's like, well, don't take it away. Like, you know, believe in yourself. Believe that you worked really hard to get here. You know, like, even though it is sometimes very surreal, I think it's like also own it because you worked really hard to get here.
That's true too. That's true. I think a lot of people don't, especially in this day and age, know what a real sense of accomplishment is. Because I feel like everybody just kind of goes in these routines and they start out with such hopeful ambition, and somewhere along the lines it just kind of levels off just by like regular human nature. Because what you're doing in the beginning is just like that adrenaline, never been done. And then once you get going, it's the discipline that sustains you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's not about like, I think a lot of people, you know, I was listening to your other podcast too, and I think you guys touched on like long-term gratification. You know, it's the dopamine rat race that really like kills people, you know, here. Is we're just so used to instantly consuming everything that we just feel like life needs to be instantly consumed. But I think like one of the best things in life are like when it is long, like when you took forever to earn it, like having kids, growing a plant, you know, things that are, and you know, I know this is like something that you guys we talk about, but it's not about the dopamine. It's not about the adrenaline rush. And I learned that the hard way. In my nursing career, you know, so now it's like, what's sustainable, you know, and like what is something that you can be disciplined, like something that's like actually disciplined with, and then being present in those days, like in those times you're being disciplined.
How many years have you been a nurse now?
Oh, it's 5
years. So you started in COVID, beginning of COVID, like beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
2020.
So when I was graduating, so in March, we were taking our finals. And it
March
was
2019?
2020.
Okay.
2020. So March of 2020, we were taking our finals because we were about to do a month-long preceptorship before we graduated.
Uh-huh.
And the pandemic had literally just been announced. We weren't wearing masks yet. And we were like, weirdly, like, everyone step 6 feet apart and take your test, take your finals, everyone, and we'll see ya.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really weird. I was on a leadership. We had a leadership class that like ended in like December, and I was like in this like meeting that where they had just first talked about coronavirus, and they were like, there's new virus in China that's starting to kill people, and like I guess this was like a really big hospital that I was working at, so they were like going to be the first lines of it. It's crazy. Yeah. And then
what did that feel like?
Oh,
Like you just got out of school, and then I mean, to me, I could equivalent that. It's probably somebody in boot camp who just signs up for the military. They're like, yeah, I'm just going in to go in, and then mid boot camp at the end of it, they're like, yeah, we're going to fucking war, and you're gonna be on the front lines. That's essentially what it was, right?
Yeah, I remember.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so it was kind of weird because they stopped all. So I graduated with my nursing degree in May, and I moved back to Phoenix, and then there was no testing to get my NCLEX. Like there was no testing to get my nursing license. It was very, very hard to get. So I didn't get it until July. So I'm almost at 5 years. But it like as soon as I got it, then I applied for ICU, and they were like, "We need your help. Come on, get in here." And I was like,
so you started straight in there too.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. It was baptism by fire. It was, I was excited. I was ambitious. I wanted to help. I felt like, I was like, there's no like way around it. So I might as well be doing something cool. Like, it was crazy.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie. A lot of just like a lot of adrenaline, a lot of work and a lot of death for sure.
Can you walk us through that? Like, what was that? You're there starting off in the ICU. What's going through your head day one?
Okay, so to be fair, I had not actually really been in an ICU until then. So
right, exactly. That's what even makes it more shakier because, like, for me, it's like you have this expectation of what you don't even think or know of what's going to happen, and then you just hit this wall. And I know this, and I'm so excited to hear this because you've told me these stories before. But now that I'm it's like, oh shit.
On it now, I'm like, holy shit, what was I like?
Yeah.
Well, there is no like okay, so remember there was like the first wave of COVID, a lot of deaths. And then like, there was kind of this like dip a little bit, and then the Delta variant came back, and then that started ramping up all over again. So I came in August so it was kind of like the end of like Delta, like where we hadn't really heard of Delta yet. And so people were like, you should have seen round one, you should have whatever. So first of all, first time I'm in an ICU. So, they've obviously made a lot of changes to accommodate to the times. So I'm not really seeing what a real ICU looks like. I'm seeing it like Jimmy rigged ICU. And then, it starts, I start like learning about stuff, and then it really starts ramping up again. And like the only thing that people, like a lot of like the nurses were telling me was like, this is not normal. This is like some of the hardest patients you will ever have. You will never have paralyzed patients on, 12 drips, and no family being able to like come in and talk to you or anything like nothing like that. The way that we're doing nursing is pretty much only going to be relevant right now. So it was kind of jarring to go through that. You learn one way, obviously, because that's all we have to like learn on. I didn't really see a lot of stroke patients. I didn't see a lot of cardiac. I mean, I kind of did, but COVID kind of took up everything. That was the priority. And so by the time like everything kind of came out of it, I had to relearn what normal ICU was like. And I was like, I don't even know what to do when I started travel nursing. But, I took a lot of classes and stuff like that. I mean, the good news was the patients weren't going to get harder. Like nothing can be harder than COVID patients. There was no, like, I mean, it got to the point where we would be on, so the patients are intubated. They're sedated with like every single sedation medication that you can basically name. And then they would just kind of sit there because the point of like ventilators is just to be a bridge so that the lungs heal. But the problem was COVID just scars the lungs. So there was no healing from that. I think in my entire COVID career, 3 people lived after being intubated. Wow. Yeah. So if there was a patient that did live, I was like, oh, you are a success story. I want to know everything about you. I've been taking care of 2 months. Who are you? Like what's going on? What did you feel like in there? And so like we would be in these rooms and our levo would run dry, or like if your levo ran dry, if your anything ran dry, these patients would start tanking. So it was a very like high intensity job of like everything needs to be backed up. We would prone people with 7 people in a room at once. I mean, it was, everybody would plan baths around their proning time because that was the only thing that was like helping our patients. And then, you know, every single one of them died. Like, you know, a lot of work to just not have any success, which, you know, looking back on now that I have like, now that I have context, like what happens in a real ICU, it's like, wow, that's very traumatic. But at the time, that's all I knew. I knew that ICU, you know, sometimes you die.
Mm-hmm.
And so like when all these people were dying, you know, it's like, okay, people die in ICU. People die in ICU. No, not like that. So that's what I think created a lot of burnout between the nurses that started during COVID, like versus like, because they didn't know better versus the people who were nurses before, because that took the toll on them because they knew better. I think for me, I didn't really like realize that things were like not okay, like till I got a COVID patient maybe 2 years after who was like a traditional COVID patient. And I remember this patient, like I had him like on PCU 2 weeks prior. I was like, no one dies from COVID anymore. You know, I gave this like speech.
Yeah.
Just him 2 weeks later, respiratory arrest, and I went to like go in on the code, and I like stopped at the threshold of the door, and I was like, I can't go in here. I can't, like, I cannot do this. I can't see this happen again. And I like didn't realize that like PTSD was real or anything like that. Anyone who has worked through COVID, I think feels at least somewhat of what I'm talking about, because it was just, I mean, our healthcare system hasn't been the same, quite honestly. It's hard, and our jobs have gotten harder, you know, because they found out that you could get rid of a bunch of people and then we would just take over the job. So, you know, a lot of nursing has changed, especially in the last 5 years, and a lot of people I don't think are very happy with it. I think there's a lot of people who are leaving, at least the ones that I've talked to, but that's just because I've been in intensive care for the entire time, pretty much.
What do you mean that it's changing? Let me ask this question first. When you were talking about, you know, helping the people and they kept passing on, what do you think contributed to that? Do you think just the medicine wasn't effective? Do you think like there was just, from your eyes, nothing that we could have done? Did you hear of anything like, hey, people are getting better from this type of medicine, but no, we can't use it? Like, was there any other talk of it?
I think the tools that we had available at the time were not able to help at all. Like the tools that we had a ventilator. I mean, the drugs were just keeping people comfortable so that they would breathe with the ventilator. There was nothing, we were just hoping that the body would heal on its own. So we didn't actually have anything that would like go in and like reverse COVID. We didn't have anything that would help heal. We weren't giving like vitamins, really. We were just giving sedation and paralytics, so that the idea was that the body will heal itself.
Would you do anything different? No, but with knowing what you know now in that type of situation, was that just like protocol to give them that? Like that's just what it was, or?
It's all we had. But this is kind of interesting because I think that we've kind of like pegged ourselves in a hole where we only think that pharmaceuticals are the only way that can really heal people. And, you know, our fancy science and the way that we're like trying to do ventilation or whatever, you know, I think a lot of those, like, they are good in their own right. But I had heard like verbal reports of people doing like red light therapy on patients in California. And they had said that, like, you know, I heard from this one patient that after like 8 hours of being under the red light, he started like taking bigger breaths. His like lung capacity started increasing. You know, so I thought that was interesting. I also, you know, I don't think we could really do anything. And the reason why I say that is because when I had that patient again, like 2 years later,
Right.
in ICU, it was, I mean, we had time to reflect on like what we did wrong, what we did right, who was dying. We had statistics. We knew.
Mm-hmm.
And we did the same exact thing that we did in COVID. We didn't change a single protocol. Given all of the people that had died, given all of the things, we didn't change anything. And now that was just at my hospital. And you know, I've worked at plenty of different hospitals, but it seems to be like the case of like we really didn't learn our lesson, especially with managing the patient care of COVID. Some different things that we tried was we just didn't intubate them. Some people, we would just be on BiPAP, like which is like a whole, it looks like what is it? It's the Top Gun thing where they put their mask on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So BiPAP is similar to, like, looks just like that. And a lot of people did make it, but ultimately, if you could figure out a way to basically just either reverse or prevent COVID from ruining your lungs, that would have been the key. Like, prevention was the key. Like, once you had gotten, like, once COVID settled in, there was no like, I have not really seen any reversal of your lungs getting better. So we just never really got there, and then it kind of just went away, and they're like, oh, cool, we're good, you know, we're done.
It's so interesting because, and we've talked about this too at one point in time, I'm sure, we have vastly different COVID experiences.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You have a complete opposite experience, right? One, you're a nurse, so obviously that by default is just going to give you a leg up because you're there. But I haven't, and even to this day, know anyone that has passed from COVID. I don't know how.
You're so lucky.
And like that's, but I feel like I know a lot of people, and like I hear some stories here and there. And to be quite honest, at one point I was like, was it real? Like, was it just the news or something? Like I started going very paranoid.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way. Like everything shut down. Like I started questioning like everything for myself. Because I was like, I'm hearing these things. I'm hearing these stories from people that I know. I'm seeing everything, but yet I don't know anybody. And for us, I feel like there's a very small group like that. It's just like, we were just very restricted in life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's all it was for us. That was our bad day. Versus your bad day was everybody's worst day almost every other day, which fucking that would be very much PTSD. So when did you get out of the ICU?
Yeah. So I kind of traveled around. And you know, I did ICU until like May of last year.
Yeah.
But interestingly, like, you know, I call it almost different levels of ICU because I started working in a hospital in Hawaii, and I mean, it was a dream. It was a dream. Like, right. One patient, if they got too sick, you know, they would fly you out of there. Like, you know, I really had it great. But it was logistically hard because it was an hour drive down, an hour drive back. I was working night shift. Hawaii's expensive, whatever. So I ended up going over to Hawaii Life Flight. I ended up doing flight nursing. So about in May of last year. So yeah, a little bit different, but still like an intensive care, but on a plane and mobile. So a lot of like the care principles were the same, but entirely
moving patient.
Yeah, entirely different. A lot of our goals were just very different. Instead of like sustaining a patient, you know, everything's quiet, everything's perfect. We are under perfect conditions. Everything was not quiet, and everything was not under perfect conditions. You know, we're in loud, we're on a runway, you're moving. So that means for patients who are intubated, it's like, no, you want to be way more sedated, because if they wake up, we just didn't want to like cause an interruption in care, like while on the way to transport. I also liked it a lot too because we had our own protocols and we kind of had a lot more autonomy. So for example, like intubating somebody, which is like putting a tube down, like, you know, so that they can breathe down their throat so they can breathe. Obviously,
Right.
that would be performed by a doctor. Well, it's only me and another person. So, you know, if I need to, we learned how to do intubations. Like I learned how to do a bunch of other stuff that a regular nurse just, not a regular nurse, but like any other ICU nurse just doesn't have the scope for. And it was really cool to be able to have like that next level of autonomy and making a lot of decisions that were like in the best interest of the patient. Like for problems. It's like getting to a point where I am just like, my nervous system is so dysregulated. Like you always have to be on. You work 24-hour shifts, and you can be called at like any time, and you're not getting to sleep. So it's like not only do you have to like be on all of the time, you also don't sleep. So it's like how do you really even do this? So I mean, flight nursing isn't for the weak. Obviously it was fun, but I started getting to a point where I was like, it's not worth the anxiety. It's not worth like my dysregulated nervous system and my emotions being everywhere. And I just kind of like organically grew out of it. You know, I was just kind of like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done. So I'm getting my nurse practitioner. I'll get it in a year, and I'll be a psychiatric nurse practitioner. But in the meantime, I'm doing IV hydration. So
it's quite a career in the span of 5 years. That's quite a career.
Yeah, I did a lot. I did my time. I literally say I feel like it was dog years. I feel like I did a 30-year career, and I'm ready for a new one. I'm ready for something that's not as adrenaline. Like when you talk about adrenaline, I'm like, I want to go the opposite way. I am tired of adrenaline.
And this is a great segue. So you also have like an idea for alternative medicine too, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is super interesting.
Yes.
So break it down.
Right. Yeah. So okay, a part of like the reason why I kind of got into it, like psychiatric medicine and also just like alternative medicine in general, is the, like, you know, I've been in ICU where all of these like pharmaceuticals, you know, pharmaceuticals are the way. We don't really do like, that is our bread and butter of a lot of the stuff. Not everything, but we do rely a lot on our pills. When I started noticing that they were giving ketamine for sedation, and I was coming down on like opioids, I was coming down on benzos, all of the other things. And I was like, what the hell is this drug? Like, whatever it is, I love it and I'm obsessed with it. And I need to find out more. Like, I want to maybe go to school for that. So my friend called me and was like, dude, you've always wanted to go back to school. Why don't you just, you know, maybe do something with that? I literally was like, okay, look it up. And I saw this like pharmaceutical science master's program that kind of talked a lot about like pharmaceuticals that I used in ICU, all the way to like mushrooms, MDMA, and like DMT, like basically anything on the spectrum. And I started kind of realizing that just because it's patented and it's, you know, FDA approved, like, doesn't mean that that's the only way to promote health and healing. And a lot of times it doesn't always hit the mark in terms of healing. A lot of pharmaceuticals tend to be band-aids. Some do like completely cure things, but that's rare, and that's not the majority of pharmaceutical drugs.
Let me ask this too. So right there's a divide, right? There's a divide between medicine that's easily available for everybody and what's in front of you, you can see. And then there's the out of sight, out of mind medicine, right? That also could help you out and heal. So they both heal. Great. The question I guess I have is a matter of difference. How much of a difference is the stuff that people are getting over the counter versus the stuff that maybe they don't know about that could do more?
Okay. It depends. It depends on what you're trying to do. here's
Right.
here's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is no drug, no matter how shiny and amazing that it seems, is a magic bullet. Like every drug has side effects and every drug has its perks. I mean, for the most part. Obviously, that's why we use them. So, you know, when like, so that question is not as like a, like, it's not necessarily like about like, oh, like what could people be using? Because then it's like, you know, if I start saying stuff, it's like people swarm to this, and every drug has its pros and its cons. And it's also about like the dosage you take and, you know, what's going on with you, why you're taking
So many
it.
variables.
There's
Right.
a lot of variables, so it's very hard to answer that question. But I think like one of the biggest parts that it just kind of, here's what it really comes down to, and this is why I kind of have a gripe with the pharmaceutical industry,
Right.
is it's all about patentability. It's not about healing ability.
Helium.
It's not about healing ability. And it's certainly, and honestly, it's not really lucrative if it can heal you, because they're in the business of money. They're a business, you know. So
That's such a dark perspective too. I don't even think people realize. Like,
yeah,
it's such a nasty thought that people look at you, they look at your life and say, I have 65 years of this person giving me money.
pretty much. And that's why, like, so that's, I had a problem with SSRIs. So like, so that's kind of like what I have it, what got me into this whole thing and what kind of made me like passionate about, you know, some psilocybin and or like potentially MDMA and stuff like that, is because, you know, SSRIs, most people take them for the rest of their lives. 1 pill a day, every day for the rest of your life.
And
that's
SSRIs meaning like an antidepressant. Okay.
Yes, like Lexapro, Zoloft, sertraline, you know, any one of those. Those are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So they're an antidepressant. They do.
Does Adderall count as that too?
No, that's a stimulant.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an amphetamine, so different class. But
Gotcha. Okay.
That's for ADHD. But yeah, so these people are taking them for the rest of their lives. Not a lot of people can really get off of them, and about 66% of people are like still like none of them are really cured. Like 66% of them don't really ever get rid of that depression diagnosis, although although the symptomology of it decreases. So I'm like, that just kind of seems like that just seems like a gimmick, like a choke.
Yeah. A ticking
You know?
time bomb still.
Yeah. And so when I started learning about like the psilocybin trials, where you only take 3, and these are, so like in this study, it's PTSD veterans, right? And you take 3 doses of psilocybin. No.
I had to grab my toothpick. Sorry. I'm big on my toothpicks. I got mint flavored right now. I'm going with cool mint.
Ooh, awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool mint. So I've been having this pack since Christmas, and I got about half a dozen left.
Nice. I love that. I didn't know there was flavored toothpicks.
Oh man, I also got some hot cinnamon wild cherry ones too. That you start your day off with like an ice cold water, and then you throw in one of those bad boys. You're kicking.
Wow, I gotta try that out, man.
Yeah, icy hot. That's what I call it.
Hell yeah, I'm in. I'm in. Get some. Okay, so like what really turned me on to the psilocybin was there was really like suicidal PTSD veterans that went through this trial. They took 3 doses of psilocybin, and 2/3 of them, by the end of it, and 6 months after, did not even qualify for a diagnosis of depression. Like, think about that. They went from one of the most severest on the scale of depression, and after 3 doses, 6 months later, after the 3rd dose, didn't even qualify for the mental illness at all. And these people have been having it for like 30 plus years.
Can we break that down a little bit? So
Yeah.
I'm curious with that, does for it to do that for a variety of people, when we discussed earlier that people themselves have a bunch of different variables to them, right? So in order to have a medicine that for 66%, 6 out of 10 people roughly, all have the same experience, no matter what, because of the variables, what does this drug do for that to happen? Is it like a mental thing? Like, what does it alter? What does it shift for everybody to migrate towards? Majority of people migrate towards this certain type of behavior and stick with it long term.
Okay. I mean, I can tell you the neurochemical thing, or I can also kind of explain what I think is going on and why. Both? Okay. So neurochemically, psilocybin is a serotonin. I believe it's an agonist. Anyway, it hits on the receptor of serotonin. Don't quote me on the agonist. It's been a minute since.
Right on.
But it hits on the receptor of serotonin, so it floods your brain with increased serotonin. Serotonin is known to, like, kind of produce some type of psychedelic effects, whatever. That's what's kind of going on neurochemically. I think, okay, to speculate, because this is something we talked a lot about in this master's program, was I think that society is going through a spirituality crisis, and these drugs can kind of thin the veil in a way, or if you can feel oneness, unity, you have mystical experiences, and that kind of like helps you feel connected to something bigger than you. So I think like, that's something, and if you talk to anybody who's done MDMA, they're going to say, I love you and I feel connected. And like, connection seems to be one of the main points that we see with anything that's a serotonin increase. And then secondly, like, especially, and this is something on the most, like, on the therapeutic side of it, is you're kind of able to review past traumas or negative experiences that have happened to you in a different perspective than the one that hurt you or was traumatic. And that is the secret key in healing. I don't think we all are really taught how to review past negative experiences and how to heal those within ourselves. We are not taught how to process and review and, really like figure out what is going on in a negative experience. We're kind of just taught to shove it down and, never think about it again. And if you can kind of get away from it, it'll never catch up to you. I don't think that actually helps. It comes back at some point. It's your skeleton in your closet.
Yeah. I love how we took a turn to this part of it, because I feel like this is something that just resonates, right? Just being able to suppress, or you trick yourself, hide against it, or, you put this veil over that. You're like, yeah, I'm good, I'm solid. And the next thing you know, it just hits again, right? It's such a dangerous thing. It really is. It's a battle.
Totally. Yeah, and like, if you've never done it before, how would you expect to be able to, that's why I think sometimes psilocybin is one of the most powerful things if you do it in a therapeutic setting and in the right way. It can be a very powerful healing tool, as long as a certain, circumstances are met. And I think like one of the lessons that are really cool about psilocybin is you learn that there's a possibility to heal yourself, whether it be through drugs or what have you. It's possible. And I think like that kind of sparks, like, now these people are talking about, okay, maybe I needed to go through these lessons to be able to do this, or maybe, secret is I need to let go, or, there's so many different lessons that you have to learn, but they finally are addressing them. Have you ever heard of the quote that says, like, your greatest and biggest, potential is right behind your biggest fear?
Yes, I've struggled with that every day. What you're saying right now hits on the surface, and um, these each one of these things I've been trying to fight and address and organize them, and it's very rough because at the start of it, when you're just understanding this concept, when someone is like ignorant and they don't know. And I think I remember years ago, just kind of turn this into a narrative story. Years ago, you know, you're scrolling on TikTok and you see those videos that are like, if you take the red pill, you can't go back. If you take the blue pill, you're chilling. You know what I mean? And I was like, I'm ready to go down this rabbit hole, dog. And I think that's when my life took a shift, because then I started diving deeper into certain like ideologies and philosophies and trying self-help books that weren't working. And then I started reading certain things that would twist my mind, a perspective. So I was reading both like deep thoughts that would like break a person, right? Like Dostoevsky, I think I'm killing his name, and a whole bunch of other people in my spare time. So I was like, was constantly trying to find my brain and find meaning and expansion while also shrinking, right? And so there's that huge gap of just not any solid foundation, but it still represents you because it's your mind. And when you start moving forward with that, it at first you're moving forward, and then you start to realize as life goes on, like this sluggish way of how your mentality is working is holding you back from everything that you need to be doing. So then you're like, okay, I need to get organized. And as soon as you start waking up to it, you start getting slapped in the face by all the things that you have been doing wrong, and they just avalanche to you if you keep on ignoring them.
Yeah.
So what I've been doing is trying to, again, fight my biggest fear, which is myself in the past, face these things, face these problems, sort through it, figure out my wrong in it, and figure out that I was human, or this person was human, or it all got miscalculated, and then break all these things down into a non-hostile thought. So then that stress and anger from that memory then evaporates, right? I can then become at peace moving forward, instead of halting and feeling that tightness in my chest and like, it's like, I did do something, or I didn't do something wrong. It's okay. Let me breathe. Let it flow.
Mm-hmm.
So I've taken all of those things and categorized them into certain characteristics. And I'm in this first draft of writing this book called Kill the Boy. It's a working title, but it pretty much goes that all of that suppression that people do, all of that is pretty much the boy's mentality, right? I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, it's okay. Suppress it. Don't think about it. It was nothing. Just let it go. You know, all those little things. You know, I should do this, but I'm not. The things that you know you should be doing, but you're not. All that just gets built up into the boy's decisions. And so what you have to do is kill the boy, and that gives you to the, you know, what to do. So it's like, you have poor time management. Well, you have to get ahead of that. You have a poor mentality. Okay, well, you have to get ahead of that. And here's how. Here's some examples. Here's how you do it. Here's how you start. It's not just, hey, you're having a bad day and you're feeling down. Here's what else you can do. Like, now there's another level that I'm trying to add on to that for people. It's like a mind frame and the mindset, the scope of, if you focus on these things with the intent of getting better, this will make you a better person in any situation. So you can stop having those bad days and stop having those buildups, to then potentially get you off of people who are stuck on these SSRIs, right? People who are struggling with these mental illnesses and all this stuff. And I know, because like I've struggling with that shit myself. So it's like, I don't want to take pills, because I know majority of people stay on them. So I've been fighting my mental, just raw dog in this bitch. You know what I mean? Like late nights hustling and tussling. Like last night, even horrible panic attack. Like I'm just chilling, and it's just like fucking squeaking, just fighting. And I'm there, but it's gotten to the point where I can now separate what's happening in my mind, and I lose all physical control. Like, these things are fucking bad. I can't talk. I can't breathe. I'm like fucking gasping for air. Like, these things are rough, but I feel like, all right, the more that I can experience this, the more I can figure out how to use my brain and calculate my thoughts to analyze what's happening and try to write that down and say, hey, look, if you're going through this shit, do this instead. It's really fucking twisted. You know what I mean? Like, I'm suffering for science, I feel like, just to write this book and just better understand whatever this is, because I know it's not right, you know? And I feel like a lot of it is built up because of PTSD in certain situations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a very twisted thing.
Well, I have like so many thoughts because, you know, we've been like talking, you know, working together for years, you know, and I, first of all, I want to say, like, you are a great example of being able to identify, like, not having such an ego and being able to receive information, to be able to say, okay, something is wrong. And then you stop and you pause. You're like, what's going on? You have to address that. Honestly, like getting rid of a part of getting rid of depression, PTSD, and some of that. And this is just a part of it, is really getting rid of the baggage of your past.
Yes. Getting out of your own way.
It's reconciling your past, reconciling your childhood, being at terms, like coming to terms with what happened was in the past.
Yes.
So that you can be present in the moment.
But let me say this too, because I think it's so deep that there's going to be moments, and the reason why the broke down happened last night, and this is like so personal to share, but I feel like I just feel like I have to, because it's like the right thing to do, is that, so I have a very rocky relationship with my mother. Like I don't talk to her a lot, like ever. Like she'll text me, she'll message me, I just don't message back, or I'm very short, like, hey, hi, yeah, good, okay, yeah, very, very asshole-ish of a boy. And I was just like, got a little tipsy last night, just vibing, enjoying the night and relaxing, and had a little too much and everything. And I just was getting emotional. It's like, fuck, oh no, what am I doing? And I just started thinking about my mother, and I was like, damn, like I haven't talked to her for so long. Like realistically, like I haven't just sat down and talked to her. I wonder if she thinks of me realistically. At the same time, I'm thinking of my son, right? Because he shares a home between we have split homes for him. So when he's at his mom's, like I miss him terribly. And I always text him, even though he doesn't text me back. So I know my love for him is deep, because I text him when he doesn't text me, right? Send him photos and videos, days and days and days. And then I have that thought about my mom, and I start looking back, and I go on Facebook Messenger, and I'm scrolling, and it's all of her messages to me for months, for days. And I'm gonna start like getting emotional now, because I was swiping for minutes. And it was like all of these times and moments in my life where I was going through it, I had my mom thinking about me like every single day. You know what I mean? And like that broke me. Yeah. And that broke me down like to my core, and like where I was feeling like this empty gap in my life of just black emptiness. I started to just think about her, and I started to like remember like my childhood moments and shit. And so I was like, okay, I'm feeling this. Let me go in the shower. So I turned off all the lights in the shower, go in the shower, and I just start fucking closing my eyes. And then I go back to when I was like 4 years old, and I was just like remembering things, and like the way she would be funny and stick out her tongue and just like make me laugh. And like all of that shit came back. Well, I was swiping, because I was like, I know how much my mother feels for me, because I'm doing what she's doing to me, to my son. And I've only known my son for 8 years. My mom's known me for 28. That parent's love runs deep, even though I've been an asshole and a piece of shit to her, right? So it's like when you start going through and you're facing these fights of your past, you get fucking smacked in the face, in your heart, in your soul. And you got to be ready for that. You got to be ready for that, because holy shit, it's weight. That shit is fucking heavy, and you don't know you're carrying it around until it just, that realization, it's the dirtiest fucking thing. And it goes back to ignorance is bliss, because now it's like, dang, now I know that black shadow of my life that like was missing now is filled up with those memories and shit again. It's like, and I haven't talked to her in so long. It's like, now I know that I've been the asshole for all these years. Damn.
I'm sure you had your reasons, but
of course, right? But as you mature, it goes back to this thing of kind of really realistically what my Nana taught me was like, always be the bigger person no matter what, because it doesn't matter. It's just the right thing to do. And most of the time you just need to do what's right instead of what you feel you want to happen. Yeah. And so you got to learn to flow. So it's like, for me, that was like a big part of it. It was like, all right, I got to flow with this. But back then I couldn't flow with it. And you still have boundaries and shit. Absolutely. And when lines get crossed, that's like how it is. And that's like another part of it, right? Because it's like every aspect of like, all right, well, you hurt me here, which is why I did this. And it's like we had this fighting boundary for so long. So it's like the rocky relationship wasn't just one-sided, like I was a piece of shit. Like she was a piece of shit too. Like, don't get me wrong. Like we both have our moments. That's just how it is. Right. But it's still the fact of, damn, that sucks, that hole. So it's like the main point is when you're fighting these things to overcome, it's so counterintuitive because when you're overcoming these things, you feel more.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that changes is you accept it and then you can just move out of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And you hold yourself through it and you let the emotions come because that's real life. That's life.
Sucks.
I know it's hard. I've been crying at night. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but something is changing in my life too. Like, you know, like when you say stuff like that, it's like, dude, I've also been experiencing stuff like that.
I blame it on the ghosts.
It's hard. It's really hard because, you know, you think you're justified in your reasonings and you're hard-headed and you're like,
yes, I'm right. I'm fucking right. And you're not.
Exactly. You know,
and that's like, noble. And I respect that too. And that's fair. And like, that's why I understand when people are like, it's my way or the highway. I get it. I can't do that because I now know that the other side could get hurt. And I don't want to put either person in a situation that loses. So I'm always going to stand Switzerland. You know what I mean?
Right.
In certain situations, might I say. For the most part, I'm going to try to keep my mouth shut. I don't want to start a fight. I don't want to pick a fight. I don't want to get in a fight. I don't want hostility. Right? So I'm going to walk the path of, in my sense, logical reasoning that avoids me from the angers and dangers of regular life. And if you're a person that brings that around, I now know that, well, I may love you and respect you, but I got to keep a distance from you. Because, our vibrations, our frequencies as humans just don't match.
Mm-hmm.
The connection there is that we don't connect. And that's not a reason why we should stay in communication. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things. It's like, better off at a distance, brother.
Right. Yeah, but I think doing that work too of being able to, like, you know, let those memories come through, like, you know, I feel like they're showing you things, you know, that may not mean that you send her a text and you just say thank you, you know, or hey,
no,
I love you. Like, if you feel that way, then yeah. But I also feel like, you know, those realizations are obviously teaching you something, and they wouldn't be happening, you know, if there wasn't something to learn, accept, and grow from.
This is the real selfish reason as why I'm putting so much emphasis on this too, and why I think it's so important is because I don't want my kids to grow up in the same situation, right? And so in order to do that, you have to be the one that goes through and stops that.
Yeah.
Right? Like everybody's family's one, whoever that one person is in the family. Like it doesn't always mean money and success. It can mean other things. Like my sister's really good at keeping the family together. This sister's really good at being creative. You know, I'm really good at being a dumbass. We all have our things that we're known for, and like we just have to live up to those things, right? No, but seriously. Yeah. No, but seriously. Cut this mic. Damn. I forgot where I was going with that. I think I was going somewhere nice. Probably not.
People were doing all these things. Your family has their good strengths.
Yeah, Madagascar 3, I think, was a great movie.
You know what? I haven't seen it.
I mean, either. It's just what came into my head because you were recently in Africa, right? South Africa?
Yes, I was. I was in Greece too. I say that because
traveler.
I just, you know, it was South Africa's very interesting. You know, it doesn't have the same like societal grab as Europe, and which is why I'm like saying, like, you know, I'm not trying to brag.
Yeah.
Now I realize what you said. I had like a delay in my ear. Anyway, so I learned a lot of interesting things about different cultures. And until I had gone to South Africa, I hadn't really been in a like non-Europe. Well, I mean, I've been more or less like, you know, it was just one of a completely different society that I have no exposure to. And like, I don't even kind of know like what their history is or anything like that. So, you know, Europe is pretty civilized. We tend to compare it to America, you know, like stuff like that. Okay. When I got to South Africa, now I was on a hunting trip, which is not something that I normally do. Okay. I'm marrying into a hunting family. So we went on a hunting trip because a lot of my nieces and nephews are about to graduate. So it's like their last family trip. First of all, so many different animals. Okay. There's so many animals. And what was like one of the most incredible things about it was
On a safari?
yeah, on a safari. I went on a safari in Kruger National Park. And okay, so you know how like animals like normally just don't interact with each other? Like in nature, you're not gonna see like Bambi hanging out with anything,
Fucking
really.
bear.
Yeah, no one's hanging
No, I'd
out,
be having him for dinner. He'd eat him up.
right? Yeah. So like all of those like safari animals, like all pretty much hang out with each other except for lions. Like
So it is
giraffes.
Madagascar.
Yeah, like giraffes, zebras, impala, they'll be like laying around with each other. Like all of them are just hanging out and they're just chilling pretty much. So there's a big like social aspect. You know, when you see the lion, like quite literally they're all together. Like they're pretty all together.
That's really cool. Okay.
So I thought that was cool. Like the animal kingdom, there's just so many different animals. Like giraffes, how the hell are those real? And elephants, like
Dude,
I know that,
what the fuck?
Yeah. So like the animal element of it was just incredible. Like Kruger Park literally looks like Lion King. Like it has all of the elements, you know.
I wonder if that's where they based it off of.
I think so. I think some of it is like in Kenya. It's a little bit all over, but
yeah,
accurate. And then like the people there, man, I felt like I walked into like the 1960s. I felt like I was walking into the civil rights, very segregated, very pretty segregated. Like the whites pretty much own all the like land, you know, they like, you know, they said that Zimbabwe is basically kind of like the equivalent of Mexico. Not my words, their words. Okay. This is not me. Like, this is just me reiterating what they said.
fucking about to get canceled over here.
I don't, but this is truly what they told me. They're like, it's
That's
very
crazy.
It's very similar. So, and additionally, like, they don't treat the women it's still like, it was seriously walking into a time machine. Where, you know, I was hunting. It was the first time I'd ever hunt stuff. And, you know, I shot something and, you know, I'm right next to my fiance and the guy's saying like, so what does your fiance want? I go, I'm right here. Like, I can tell you what I want. Like, you know, I would ask for the keys to the car to, you know, when we're on a safari, if we're at a restaurant or something, and to get my like jacket. And, you know, Dylan gets the keys to the car and I get escorted to the friggin' van because I can't go alone somehow or, you know, something like that. It was a really big culture shock for me. So, you know, I kind of got hung a little bit.
You had somebody that always had to be next to you so like you wouldn't get taken or...
Oh, you know, they never really explained that. So I assume that like maybe it was for safety reasons, but...
Was it always Dylan?
It was like any male. Like any male could ask for the keys to the car and they would just get them, you know, whatever you want, here you go, you know, go get it. But, you know, when I ask, it's like a whole thing all of a sudden.
Did other women get escorted too?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I wondered if it's like a protective thing or something.
I think so. It was just either way. It was just really different than what I was used to. And, you know, I'm trying to like talk to everyone, you know, like, so we have like the hunting guides, which are like the main people that you talk to. So like, that would be like a normal like conversation between me and you know? And then like, I'm trying to talk to like, you know, the cooks and the maids and, you know, the hands that help with the people or with the animals. And they're all just like, don't talk to them. You know, these guys are like yelling at them like they're second-class citizens, which I mean, I guess they are. Yeah. It was jarring to me to like have that like be real, and a little bit like, ooh, like, you know, like that's not how we should treat people, you know. But it was real, and like it kind of helped me like gain an appreciation for like, okay, maybe we have made strides. You know, maybe we have made strides in, you know,
That's what
women. And
yeah, I think we definitely have. I mean, that's what Bernie Sanders was saying on the Joe Rogan podcast the other day, you know, and Joe was like, have we really? And Bernie broke it down and everything else of that sort. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, like that's great. That's what we need. We need more calmness. We need peace. We don't need aggression. But you got to protect yourself, you know? So it's this very complicated thing that I can see. It's this very Western thing, but you say it's Western, but then everybody has nukes, you know? Or some people have nukes, at least.
you know, I mean, some of the largest, you know, that's the whole thing is you're superior if you have nukes now. Like that's kind of
like, why does it matter what happens on that side of the world? I understand from the business, corporate, humanistic aspect, but from the nature, environmental, I got to put food on my table. I don't give a fuck, brother, respectfully. And it's like, I understand that the world is not a good place. No. And I also understand that thought process in itself is very selfish, right? But I also understand that could also happen here, tomorrow, any day, because anything could happen at any moment in time, right? And like, that's just reality in life and shit.
I mean, money rules the world and oil rules the world. It's not nature and environment, although at one point it was. And, you know,
people have been fighting forever. And I think that's the disease of evil.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that because, they really are shrouded in it. And that's where I now understand points of view of religion and why people are saying that there's such a spiritual war going on and that it's already here and happening. Because the patterns of human behavior, I believe, are the reason why, you know, religion exists, because people can talk about these things in ways that anybody could understand.
Yeah.
Realistically, through such an impact in stories and words that mean so much and have so much depth and meaning to good and lightheartedness, rules and of life on how to handle certain situations. Like it's a glossary of how to not be a fuck up, you know, or how to avoid certain shit. And you have, if you do it, people are like, yeah, that's stupid. And I understand, you know, religion in itself is a very, very interesting thing, right?
Yeah.
So you have people who are against it. You have people that are for it. You have people who don't know. You have people who don't even know about it. It's every which way. And this gets now, I guess it's a very deep thoughts, because for me, it is such a deep layered thing on how things are structured. It's not just one-sided. It's all the variables combined to make certain points accurate in the moment, but the moment's always changing, so it's never accurate.
Yeah.
Which is why people are always lost all the time, and everybody's right and everybody's wrong. Which I came with this idea that maybe the government, and this is a crazy thought, and I'm not saying I agree with this, even though it's my own thought. I'm just toying around with an idea. But it's like maybe the government with social media is technically a good thing. And here's what I mean by that. If people are ignorant and don't know better, the vast majority, and if you can control them, would you want them to see the most evil shit there is? Or would you want them to see what makes them happy and have them create their world?
Well,
that's the thought, right? Because then if you look at social media, it's all interest. It's all about what you're interested in the moment, in the day. Whatever you want to see more of, you will see more of, right? So it puts you in this bubble of your own seclusion, and it takes away the social element. And when you take away a social element, you take away the possibility for other people's disagreements and therefore violence by human nature. By putting people in their own way that they're always right, one that also builds, I think, a very bad ego and narcissism at the same time that could be super unsustainable if people don't come to a realization of being open-minded, being able to have open discussions without taking it personal.
But it also takes away connection with people that, you know, that have a diverse set of perspectives as well. So if you're always told that you're right, then no one's
and then being told that you're wrong. Right, exactly. What do you mean I'm wrong? We have opposite views and I'm right. And that's fine. It's the understanding. It's that middle point. It's where the two worlds meet, that collision needs to be met with not force, but flow. You know, it's okay. You have your perspective, which is your immediate perspective of yourself. I have my own. Even though they're opposite, we can just fucking exist.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to say you're going to fucking fuck me off, and I'm not going to do the same to you. Like,
yeah.
This microphone might, though.
I could see you having subtle microaggressions towards this microphone.
Fuck this microphone right now, man. It's a pain in the ass, but it's a great microphone at times. No, this microphone and this streaming setup has been the biggest thumbtack in my ass.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Do you like it or do you not like it?
It's a love-hate relationship. It keeps things spicy.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
No.
It's how it is.
Do you want a new one or do you like what do you want?
I like it. It pisses me off. It keeps me humble.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah. Because, you know, when it works, I'm like, God, this thing's fucking great. But when it doesn't work, it's like, God damn it. And like, to me, that's my deep thought with it is like, damn, that's life. Don't let the microphone drop. Sometimes it be like that.
It happens. You have to go with the flow, man.
Yeah. So that's all that deep thought.
Okay. I want to go back to I did need to touch on something when you were talking about your book. I love that there's a lot of like framework around perspective shift. Like, I'm the queen of a reframe. It's all about your perspective.
Yes.
Something that I'm learning right now. Like, and I'm like, absolutely yes. And I will always be supporting, stuff like that. It is your
bitch. Perspective. Yes. It's the key to everything. And my perspective is that perspective is everything. Yes.
It's true. You know? So something that I'm learning that goes hand in hand with that is perspective is a thought. And it's not really physical. And I run into a problem where if I only focus on perspective, I become dysregulated or like other pieces get dysregulated and not grounded and integrated. So there's this like kind of like duality piece to it where it's like, yes, it's all about perspective, but it's also about regulating and being present in the moment. And if your perspective is helping you be present, that is where integration happens.
So you're saying it happening in the moment, like when you have the perspective shift in the moment to realize that you're doing something?
More of like we're trying to bring it into physicality. It's like bringing a thought, like the way that you think about things will help you be conscious about your present, like being in your body, like grounding, stuff like that.
Right. Meditating, self-reflection.
It's like having a baby with like, like the thought and physicalness is now like you put those two together and you have like you're now more able to be present in the moment, which helps quite literally. I have had problems with emotional. Yeah, that too.
I'm emotional.
But like nervous system dysregulation, and I tried to outthink. And maybe if I find the solution, the answer is just knowing stuff. The answer is like, oh, just maybe just switch your perspective. But it was never like, oh, just switch into being present. Switch
Take
into
action.
Yeah. What do you feel in your body? What do you smell? What do you hear? I just got these tuning forks. And whenever I just like dissociate and I like try and like think ahead and all this stuff, it's like, I just literally go and I listen to it. And it keeps me in the moment. Like, you have to find these like little things that like keep you there, because if not, I will mentally spiral. And that's where I found myself, like, where it's like perspective's everything, except for when I run away with perspective and then just want to keep thinking about it, Yeah.
I call those teleports.
Interesting.
That's the teleport, right? And if you have enough teleports, then it equals a line. Thus, you're always in the moment. And then once you're in the moment, then that's where you can start moving forward and backward with ease. So essentially, like when I'm doing my self-reflection and having these panic attacks, I'm having a very bad teleport. I'm going back somewhere. My body's rejecting it, but I'm forcing my mind to go there and then relive these things and see what it was and have the actuality and complete the timeline of my teleportation line.
Are
Do
you
you
putting
understand? That's the next part of everything, right?
Yeah.
So the line, yeah, which is essentially this thing, which is the whole framework of everything.
Oh, you got a 3D printed?
Yeah. So this to me is like the line, like the line's in the middle, and then I broke all this shit down. Because there's an up grab, there's a down grab, there's certain ways, like there's a mathematical equation to all of this in order to pull yourself out and teleport. So basically, like what I'm doing in my head, fuck this mic. What I'm doing in what I'm doing in my head is I'm essentially assigning and I'm reorganizing. So how I was reorganizing my emotions by facing my fears and letting it hit me and having the fight and going through that dirty work, and now allowed me to understand my brain better. So I'm using that same technique and understanding the thoughts of emotions and how to, in my essence, go back and forth with your memories as if you're still there, which then could be like what do people call it? Like it's not necessarily dream walking, but like you could. It's huh?
Maybe lucid dreaming?
Kind of, but like you could do it. Yes. Like it's doing that while you're physically awake though too. You know what I mean? It's not just okay, you have to enter into a mental state. It's that like the Hulk, you're always in that mental state, which is why I always say remember the line. And the line is made up of your teleportations, and your teleports are you in the moment, every single moment, taking in every single sensory that you can. And obviously you can't do that because your brain can't focus on that, because it's going to go, oh, squirrel, oh, bird, oh, car, oh, right, phone, notification. So it's very hard to do that. But what you can do is focus on doing self-reflection, meditations, right? That's why what people say when they go into meditations, they're able to enter a state and move around there. It's because they've connected to a certain frequency in their head that allows them and connects them somewhere, because everything is Bluetooth connected. It is. If you don't believe me, technology wouldn't exist, right? And we people have human connections, vibrations. That's why if you go near somebody you don't like them, you're like, oh, my vibration's off, right? You know that. Like I get a bad feeling. It's the vibrations. You don't mesh. Like I said earlier, your connection is that there is no connection. Stay away, right? And some people don't understand that because they don't have the framework and the scope to understand their emotions on how to not have the boy's mindset, but again, have the man's mindset. That's essentially what it is. The bad is not understanding the mindset of what is bad. That is the devil in itself to me, while the good is knowing how to see the bad, understand it, respect it. Respecting it is the biggest part, because that means you acknowledge it, but you also keep a boundary to it. To me, that's, I think, what religion is trying to say. But they go into such stories to keep people captivated, because the greatest thing that humans are storytellers. They're narrative people. That is by default. That's why art will never go away and be replaced by AI, no matter what. Because if we see something done by AI, which we have thousands of times, it's never going to, people are going to go to Picasso still. You know what I mean? People aren't going to go to an AI, eventually maybe, but at this moment they're not. So I say all of that because it goes to the line, right? Like everything that is, ever will be, forward, front, back, left, right, up, down, is all those little teleports taking in the moment through self-reflection in order to better yourself, and realizing that when you can teleport by having good moments, it's a lot easier than having bad moments, because then your experience becomes a panic attack trying to understand yourself versus a smooth, okay, I made the right decision and avoided things. So now I can flow clearly throughout myself, which is now going to help me understand other people on the same level and depth. And now that I know myself front and back, if I look at somebody else and I see what they're struggling with, I now know what they could be, which is assumption. So you have to be careful with that, could be going through, because I went through that same thing. But if they are going through that same parallel thing, which most people are, because humans go through things together by default, because again, we're all connected. So people feel things, which is why the psilocybin, I'm assuming, brings people together in connection, right? Harmony. It enhances basically the waves of connection and uplifting to everybody to the baseline of whatever this happy thing is, which is why I think when certain people take DMT as well, they all go, the vibration soul in their head, the electricity takes them somewhere. Oh, it's frozen. Is it frozen still?
That was the coolest thing I've ever fucking heard.
Really?
That was fucking awesome.
I was going off for that felt great. Because I was putting it together while I was saying it too, because like it's all these different ideas. Yeah, it's everything. And so I say all that because it comes back to this little thing, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm taking all of that shit that I just fucking said and putting it into a mathematical equation so that people can look at it and say, this is how I can now replicate this. So I'm taking what I see in my head into a language that people can then replicate and understand. Because if I say it in words, people won't understand words, because I can say, I don't like this, but that may have a stronger annotation for me than it does for you. So there's variables. So what I want to do is eliminate the variables by making it into math, because a 1 is a 1 and a 2 is a 2. So if people can look at the numbers and physically see what it is and recreate it and say, this makes sense,
yeah,
then they can recreate it mentally into their own version of what needs to be for them. So it's like a variable helping mental medicine with certain attributes, and you know, that is only going to potentially make you better.
That is seriously so. I mean, it's funny because it's like there's parts where I'm like falling on, like dead on. There's other parts where I'm just not like mathematically whatever. So I'm just like.
But I don't know what the math means, but I know what the math means.
Exactly. It almost sounds like for a while there, it almost sounds like the yin and the yang. Like when you're talking about like you're giving it space. Like I think that's like very similar. I'm not saying that your concept is the same exact, but it reminded me of the yin and the yang, of like there's always good and the bad.
Because it's perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which you're giving obviously structure. So there's obviously structure. Because you made it. You physically made that thing. Like that is something that's just so cool. Like even for like people who are like a mathematical equation, obviously I don't speak in numbers in that way, but like the fact that you're able to communicate that through like a literal different language means like that, like obviously like math is used to like help communicate like what kind of world we live in, like quite literally, like in a different language. How do you quantify the rules of this earth, or how do you like visualize it? How can you quantify?
And that's the interesting part. It's like, how do you put thoughts into numbers? Like, how do you look at something and say, this is what a thought looks like as numbers? This is what this is like. This essentially is that. How does the framework of thoughts work and being able to move around them so freely, and my emotions within it? Because this structure, like, it has the 4 sides with a meaning, the numerical reasoning for it, which I have all written down on one of my notepads in depth, with lines and grids and everything. And then I created this. Like it all does have meaning for you to navigate yourself and get yourself back on track. So it has a physical sense and meaning to it, while it also has a very big ideology sense to it as well. Like when you look at it, it's not just one thing, it's all these different concepts, and instead of life hitting me and I have to figure it out, this is my way of building this framework that allows me to then immediately, whenever I get hit with these life hits, instead of it punching me in the face, I now have, what's that game where you have a ball on the top and in it there's like all these little dots and then the ball just randomly goes into chance?
I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yes.
Before, that's what it felt like. Everything was just going in and getting scattered. Now what I've done is I've taken all those randoms and I've organized them in such a way that when life hits, it now goes into its respective spot immediately.
Ow.
Which is another classification for this.
How did you get it to do that?
Well, that's the part where it goes into the up grabs and down grabs.
Okay. So like so you're telling me if you put a ball, this is crazy.
What the fuck is an up grab and down grab?
Oh, I love this.
Goodness. So I record my podcast sometime also on Streamlabs, just in case. I forgot to stop recording from a couple days ago. It's at 155 hours, 34 minutes, and 59 seconds it's been recording.
Oh my God.
I love my computer. I abuse it. Sorry. It's a big file.
Computer, we love you.
Oh my God. All right. Let me see if I can actually find my work on this. I think I have it in my Google Drive. So if you bear with me, I can. So yeah, yes. This gets into some of it. I tried to find a bigger like, because I made a whole video on this. I think I sent it to you too at some point.
Yes, I watched it, but you have to understand, I was so bad at math. I'm really good at visuals.
I don't understand it myself.
Okay, so I'm giving you all I've got, Captain. I am working on it. I am so eager to learn this. You have no idea.
Okay, so
My
there's a
freaking
couple
really
pictures.
good friend just learned something or like is creating something really fucking cool and I don't really understand it. You bet your sweet ass I'm gonna freaking try and figure out what the hell is going on.
Okay, so we gotta first share my screen, and hopefully this shares right for everybody who's watching this.
Do you do it live?
Do what live?
You actually stream it live?
Yeah, let's see. I can, yeah, I can.
Oh yay! Cool.
Okay, so can you see?
Yes.
Let me rotate this if I can. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is gonna be. Stick with me here.
Okay.
If I zoom in, do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So first and foremost, can you kind of? This is a sideways drawing of pretty. Well, it's pretty much this, right? Like.
Yeah,
You can kind of see the structure of it, right? So the way we're reading this is from left to right. First of all, that's how we're reading this version of it. There's different versions. Okay. Because again, this is up, down, left, right. So I have to bring you down into sections in order for you to understand the square. And then you can put the square together in your head if you can, and think of all 4 of these sides at once. And then you're onto something. So this is part 1. So this is more about you. Now, if you look right here, there's a very solid line.
Yes.
This solid line we're going to call is pretty much the grabs. Okay. You see, it's called grab. If you notice one up, there is no solid line. Okay. And down, there's no solid line. So you have your grab and then you have a space. In these spaces, it says asses, but it's supposed to be assess. So this is where you assess. So you're asking me, how can you use this structure in order to like mentally track and like get yourself on track and be able to navigate certain thoughts and patterns, right, in their respective spots. So this is how each one of these grabs is essentially your baseline. Your baseline is who you want to be, knowing again your scope of your emotions and having a good sense of good and evil. Like once you're like, all right, this is the person I want to be, that's your baseline. I would recommend it be a good baseline. Okay, so this is your baseline. Now you're living life. As you're living life, shit can happen. Now, if you look, there's these little X's here. Okay. So these also go in a diagonal action. So up, 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 and then down, down, down. Okay. Kind of see that?
Yes.
So that plays a very big part in this as well, because if you're going up, you're going to be moving up, right? So you're going to be moving it out of a balance zone. In a balance zone, that's where something's happening. Let's say maybe it's a change in life, right? Like let's just say a life event is happening. A baby's coming, because I can use myself. I'm about to have a baby in a couple weeks. Yay! So thank you. So up doesn't necessarily mean good. Down doesn't necessarily mean bad.
Okay. It just means change.
It just means change. Okay. So when let's just say we're moving up, and I know people are going to say, well, how do you know when you're moving up versus down? I'm going to get to that part. Well, let's just say you're moving up, right? You're having a baby. Well, you're going to be going on what's called an up grab. Okay. That's what this one is here. This is your baseline. Now you're going to an up grab. Now, during this moment from your grab, your baseline, to your up grab, what's happening is you're going through 2 balance zones and an assess zone. This is a framework. This is a framework of your mindset. A balance zone basically means, okay, I am leaving my comfort. My routine of the past let's use this analogy. My routine for the last 2 months is now changing. I understand that change is coming. I understand things are happening. I know this baby is coming. I'm coming out of a balance zone. Let me start getting ready for that change and just understand that things are going to naturally happen. I'm going to be under extra stress. I'm going to have extra variables and things may happen and I need to be ready for them. You're starting to shift your mindset for the chaos and get ready. Flow. Okay. Then you're going to go into your assess. Your assess situation, let's say in this case, is like, fuck, this is happening. The car just broke down. This is when shit starts going right or wrong. Life happens. The variable of the day-to-day that you just can't necessarily control, right? You can predict some of it. The car's got to get an oil change. I didn't get it. 6 months past due. The car blew up. Fuck. That's kind of a fuck up, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is where you're assessing shit. And you're like, fuck. You're getting things in order. You're in the chaos of the change. You're still moving forward and you're moving up because the baby's still coming. So you're going again into a balance zone. This is where you start assessing things once again. Okay, where are my finances? How am I doing on the day-to-day? How's my spirituality? How's my physical, mental health? What do I need? What am I lacking? Okay, what is my partner lacking? How, like, do I have everything set up for the baby? X, Y, and Z, right? And then you start settling into your up grab, which becomes your new baseline. Okay. So now you were asking me, you didn't ask me, but you were thinking it, and so is everybody else out there, that what determines what goes up and what goes down? Well, what goes up is your progress. What are your goals and aspirations and your purpose? Are you moving up towards your progress? And as you're moving up towards your progress, it's going to be much more structured, right? Or at least it should be. I want to get out of college. I want to finish college. That's your up grab. During that up grab, you're going to have finals. During that up grab, you're going to have parties. During that up grab, you're going to have to work that shitty job at Starbucks that doesn't pay shit, and you're going to fall behind and not pay your phone bill. You know, your boyfriend's going to dump you. Your girlfriend's going to dump you. You're going to fail a test. You may have to retake a class. You stubbed your toe. All that shit, right? Life is going to be on the up grab. Okay? You failing, let's say something tragic happens, that's a down grab. Those are the things you can't really predict, but they're still happening. And it's a lot harder because you're going down, but you still have to follow the same structure. Okay, things are changing. I hate to say this, my dog just died. My dog didn't just die. Well, my dog just died. Okay, I have things. It's a project. It's still something that needs to get done, right? Yeah. So this is, as soon as a thought comes in, I always try to stay at my baseline, whether it's going up or down, as quick but as cautious as possible, which is exactly where these now vertical lines come in. These kind of represent days. Okay. So are you having an up day or down day? Where are you going? Right. So you're always going to be fluctuating around this. That's the variable of your normal immediate day to day. I spilled coffee on my pants. Your life's not going to change because you spilled coffee. It's a small thing, but it could still affect you, right? I'm going to have a fucking like coffee stain on my pants at work all day. Right? So you're going to have daily variables. Maybe the car got a flat tire. It's not a life-changing thing. For some people, it could be. But this is where this now becomes different. So now when something happens in my life, I immediately go, okay, is it out of my variable? Okay, it's out of my variable. Okay, am I going up or down? Does this align with the positive outlook of my life or a negative outlook of my life? Positive. Okay, I know I'm going up. Let me assess what's going on. This is where I'm at. I'm changing from this. What needs to change with me? Okay, this needs to change with me. I need to make X more money. I need to wake up 15 minutes earlier. I need to stop eating Chipotle. Great. Let me set those things up. Let me organize it on a calendar. Let me organize it however I need to. Set alarms to wake up earlier. Set alarms to go to sleep. Put in that study time, right?
It seems like order versus chaos.
Yes. But no matter what, even if there is chaos, you force order. You force the chaos into the order. You raise the situation to the standard. You raise whatever is happening to the standard to live by your standards of hopefully you being a good, decent, strong person, which is why, again, I'm writing the book. So I know that I can navigate myself like this with this framework and mindset, that if things are going up, I'm positive. And if things are going down, I'm still going to be okay because I have this balance zone where I assess, I'm balancing. And then I realize this is my baseline. And it helps me become more at peace with the chaos or the big shift that I didn't plan, getting fired. Right? Losing the car, right? My best friend moving, whatever life may bring at you, right? You didn't get the promotion. It still makes you okay because you still know you're at a baseline. You're not free falling. You're not going down into a depression and going to hit rock bottom. This takes that away by giving you a mindset to physically see and one, control your emotions by also being present in the moment. You see, you're present in the moment. You're assessing what's around you. You're taking self-reflection. The more you do that, the more you can have positive moments. The more positive moments.
Spiraling.
Yes, exactly. So that's why this plays such a vital role. And when you look at it, it has different meanings. Emotionally, ideology, whatever the fucking word is. My mouth is dry because I've been talking for so long. But yeah, that is this. And this is only the first photo.
Yay.
All right. This breaks things down a little bit more.
I'm so excited.
Are we having any fun?
So much fun.
I feel like I'm presenting for the class. And today, class, I'll be discussing my brain. What the fuck?
I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, I see this shit when I just fucking see this shit. It came to me. All right. So this describes it a little bit more at a different perspective. You see, this is again why this thing plays such a big deal, because this is only a section of this whole entire thing. Like, this thing's a fucking cube in reality. It's the structure in my head. Wait, that's another thing. I don't want to confuse us. Okay. So this is a different perspective. Baseline, right? The line, it even says it right here, but this is also the line. There's an intersecting point. When you intersect the points, that's where you become, I'm conscious. I'm here. I'm aware. I'm in the moment. I'm one. This is where thought and feeling become one. This is that moment you were talking about, right? Right
Yes.
here. And from here, you can go down, you can go up. Okay, because you can still go down while going up, because again, it's not just forward thinking from this perspective, but you can see now that this doesn't necessarily mean up or down, because you can slide too. So down, again, doesn't necessarily mean down. I know it's very confusing, and until I make an actual physical model of this whole entire thing, which won't make sense, because I don't think that you can necessarily physically see from this perspective of the human nature the thoughts, because we can only see what's in front of us and not all around us. So being able to try to create something that you're supposed to see from an outsider's perspective, but also feel it and see it from every perspective, you can't.
Yeah.
But something somewhere out there will help me understand how to create this physically for people to understand. Okay. But again, so that's why it's not necessarily down and not necessarily up, but you can still move forward. You can still move backwards. Because again, once you teleport enough times in the line, then you're able to just freely walk through ideas, freely walk through moments of your life, and have discussions with your past self at that moment. That's a trip.
That's cool. That sounds almost like flow.
Yeah. I think it's a lot more with just intuition, right? Like when you go, and you've had a big hand in guiding me through a lot of this too, when I ask you for advice on things, and you've played a key role in giving me things to think about, the right questions to challenge myself in order to help identify that voice. So that's pretty cool.
Hey, thanks, man.
Oh.
You do a lot for me too. So this is definitely, it's a great relationship. It's always fun because I always learn something new with you.
I do think thoughts. So this is a little bit more of the math side of it.
Okay.
So each one of these things are connected into fours and sequences of four. So a single form is 1, a base structure is 4. Okay. And what I mean is, like, this is that, right? So this whole entire thing, if I'm not mistaken, since it has all 4 sides, is I think this is the whole thing. This is the whole down community. So I'm going to explain what that means when creating this. So the mathematical structure to this so far that I've gotten, and I don't know if this makes sense, but to me, it kind of does. So remember, the goal is always to remember the line. So 1, 4, 16, 32, 64, 128, like just doubles.
Square.
Just doubles. Yeah. Remember the line.
Okay.
Single form is 1, base is 4, a line. And it sucks. I can't show the other photo at the same time while presenting, which is really confusing. But I'll have to go back to it. A line is 16. A community, like that's what it's called. A community is 32. 32 makes up just a community. Okay. And then you have the up community. That's where your up grab is made. Okay. So remember the balance zones. Let me see if I can pull this one up too. No, it doesn't. It'd be cool if it did. Oh yeah, I could just share this entire screen. Okay, cool. So like right here, let's now put these side to side. Okay, so a single form is just like one of these. Okay.
The circle, or not quite circle, but
Yeah, but like this square right here, right?
yeah.
A basic structure is 4. A
Okay.
line is going to be 16. So that's 16 of these together. Okay. And then a community is going to be a whole block. This isn't drawn to scale mathematically. Okay.
Okay.
That's going to be before the balance zones. So right here, this whole
Are we
thing.
talking like in a 3D? This is like 3-dimensional, right? Because that's what I'm picturing. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Good.
So
Good.
this whole thing right here is a community. An up community is up here.
Okay.
Okay. And then the down community is the whole thing. So when I'm talking about an up community, it just has the grab and the up grab. When I'm
Okay.
talking about a down community, that's the whole thing. Grabs, up grab, down grab. That doesn't just mean grabs and down grab.
Okay.
I know it's confusing, but it's the whole thing. So when you have a down grab, you have a full structure, and this full structure would then create something of this sort. Now, the reason why this is important, these are different perspectives. The first perspective is just to first figure out your baseline. Once you figure out your baseline, you do that one day at a time, which is a single form. A base structure is you know more of you, and you start having these certain moments where you can teleport to and start stringing certain emotional ties and thoughts and ideologies of who you want to be and anchor it and start making that who you are. I know I'm a good person because this, and this is who I am, right?
Yeah.
And then a line is more of that, more of those, a community. So that's when you have enough of these. So when you have enough single forms, when you have enough moments where you successfully teleport, meditate, have those moments where feelings and thoughts combine, enough times of that is going to create 128 moments where you can then fully assess 128 different moments of your life where you've had certain emotions that you can then, when you feel something that hits you in the face, like life, you can then go through 128 different emotions and categorize it to that correct thing and then use the proper response to it. So it's like collecting so much data on yourself all the time. The trick is being able to remember it. But the thing is, you don't have to remember it if you have the teleport, because the teleport goes up based off of feelings. And then once you're in the feelings, then you can create the visions that you see of your memories. So you're classifying your memories not like in order, but by emotionals. So you're like, yeah, I felt this way when I was 7, 13, and 6, right? And these things of this emotion remind me of that. So
That's
then
wild.
you can, so then you can start remembering things when you're 3, 7, and 6, and right now in the moment at the same time, but and then also see it from a different perspective. So
It's
you
like
feel,
superposition.
huh?
It's like in a superposition or a supraposition.
Yes. And then the crazy part, when I really go deep, and this is going to sound fucking crazy, but when I really go deep into my meditations with that specific thought of depth and feeling and carefully categorizing all of that, I can like then have conversations and discuss, hey, where are we at? What am I missing? Where are we going? Am I still aligned with who I want to be? Is everybody happy? Is the young person in me happy? Am I at peace with myself from 5 years ago? How am I doing for my future? Is he happy? Is he still good? Do I still have a connection? Do I have a connection with those around me?
So it's like having a meeting with every past version of you
And future.
and future. So it's like everyone is coming together.
In
Like,
one specific
check
moment. So like when you go and you have a moment of realization, it is a super moment of realization because all of you is here in this moment all at once. Now, I'm going to take this a step further. This is the crazy part about this. Now you're like, okay, well, if this math continues on and on and on, how are you able to remember all of these things? Well, why do you think I put it all in numbers? Because humans are with repetition and people can understand numbers because it's factual. In order to successfully teleport or be successful in a moment, which you have to know to your core, you have to first run through the basics of what you think meditation is and just fucking throw that out the window. Because you have to do that plenty of times over and 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 over again until you can successfully just be free in your mind and not see shit, not feel shit, but just meditate in a pure state, however that feels. And then you can start moving around and doing different things, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you need to be able to have essentially 128 of those just to essentially understand yourself and your emotions. Now, if the numbers keep on going on and on and on and on, how are you able to access all these emotions and feelings? let's go back to what I said when everybody's Bluetooth connected. Well, everybody's Bluetooth connected. What does the internet run off of? The cloud, essentially, right? There's this magical thing.
Mhm.
Well, there's also, and I thought I was crazy for this, but I've been doing more research into it, and I want to make a whole entire thing on it. But I don't want to spoil that too much.
Okay.
But this goes into like more of a spiritual thing, kind of too, where people, and I've talked to you about this, where it's just like, yo, I'm feeling shit. This is when you get to the point when you do this enough times and you're able to teleport within yourself and have these conversations on the go, on the fly, while you're conscious during the day. But it's way more heightened at night, like when I meditate deeper.
Yeah.
You feel not just then your life, but others. That's where thoughts of others enter in your mind, where you start feeling things. And I don't think people realize that you can also cheat this by just having a raw connection with somebody where you let down your walls and you become on the same vibration. And then you're like, you start saying the things at the same time, right? Like usually people see this with their like significant other. You start saying things at the same time, laugh at the same jokes, right? Because you're on that same frequency. That's where that comes in for this specific thing.
Yeah.
So when you're on that same frequency, and when you understand your own frequency and your foundation of who you are, you can then step out of that because you know what frequency is not you and somebody else when you're meditating, and then you can learn to communicate with that frequency. When you start communicating with that frequency on such a level because you know yours and you can see that there's a rhythm to it because of perspective and you're allowing variable change happen, you realize that that in itself is a language. When you start understanding that that language is there because it's a different perspective, you start to understand just the communication of just this. Like all of this that I'm saying is what I've gotten from my head to make it understand. So if you can put like your thoughts into this is where it's like when people ask me like, Bob was not, what is it, the one guy who does what's his name?
You're saying
gonna
Bob
mess-
who? Give me some.
My brain just shut off.
Dude,
I just got cut off from the valve.
Damn. How they going to do that to you?
But essentially, yeah, all of that, what I've been ranting on for the past like my whole entire life is all of this into one on an infinity scale. Like that is that super duper godlike emotional thought process and thinking with everything.
Well, it feels like it's like literally creating like what your frequency is, right? Like, and then like understanding that, like knowing thyself. There's a lot of like spiritual principles that I can like kind of relate to this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, the idea is like once you get to that, like, and then you can like know who you are so that you don't get blended in the midst of others, which, you know, has a lot of positives and like negatives to that. But I also feel like something with the cloud, like, you know, I know that you kind of like, and I just wanted to touch on this. It almost feels like, you know, I feel like there's like a piece of me, I don't know, maybe up in, I'm not going to call it heaven, but somewhere, you know, that kind of like lives, you know, sometimes.
Right.
I don't know, all the time, perhaps, you know, but most of my energy is here. I feel like what you're kind of maybe like describing is that it's like you're able to focus like all of your energy of like what you are, and or like, you know, I kind of had Nirvana vibes where like you're just nothing but like pure energy. It's like putting every ounce of energy that you have like, kind of together, like in a superposition, which may be what is like what infinity means, you know, like I don't know. It is one of the coolest things I've honestly like ever.
I don't understand it.
I don't either.
But it makes sense to me. Like it's familiar, but I understand it. And when I think on this, more pieces of the puzzle come to me that just fit with this by me not forcing the thought process. Because I've realized when I tried to force it, I'm like, what the fuck? This doesn't make any sense. And so then I just stop. But when I've just let it go when I'm meditating and then it just comes to me, like then more just kind of pours out like different sections, different puzzle pieces.
It feels like you grab it from the ether. Like it quite literally feels like you grab it in flow state.
Last night when I was having this panic attack, I saw something that was very weird. And I don't know if this is physically possible, which it probably isn't, but I want to create a light structure. And I don't know what that means yet, but I see it in my head. And I don't know how to do it because it's manipulating light to see something physical in the light.
Like the 4D, like a different dimension, or trying to create. Ooh.
So like I think in order to get to a different dimension, to see something different, we have to rearrange rather. We have to rearrange our elements in our physical dimension now and move them in such a way that then shows the fourth dimension, shows something we don't understand, another type of movement and speed.
Yeah.
So it's like, for an example, you take light. Well, we know water and light are very interesting things together. Like they can, because of light, we can see reflections off of water. We can magnify things. So it's like, well, if we're able to do that, what if bending time and space is just a matter of like, it has a big amount to do with light, and it's a very big thought that I don't even know if it makes sense, but it's just light. You have to bend light in a certain way repeatedly and focus it on one specific point in order for it to create something. Like you have to structure it in the right way for the light waves that we can't see to hit something and create this thing. I have no idea. It was a panic attack thought. Mid's panic attack, freaking out about my mother scrolling, in the pitch black, and I start thinking about different like elements and lights and shit. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. My wife comes in, I'm like crying in her arms. I'm like, the world's fucking ending. By the way, don't let me forget about lights. She's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm like, I'm going through it, but I gotta get the lights. I got it. Like, but it's fucking crazy because in those moments, like, I see shit like this that just it puts things in a weird perspective, which probably isn't healthy on the mental, but yeah.
No, I think there's like, you obviously have a true gift.
That's fucking weird. I don't know. It's fucking terror. It's terror up here.
I wish that I like saw half the shit you saw, dude. That is fucking cool. I need to know.
Weird. It's weird because you can only. I feel a lot like a dam, and my physical self, words in the brain, is the wall.
Yeah.
And I feel the pressure of everything else, and I can like lightly explore it because it's touching the wall. It's like touching me, but water constantly flows and moves. So when I get connected and I'm like, okay, let me get what I can get and try to put this puzzle piece together. Like that's how I feel. But at the same time, it's like so much water pressure. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? It's a really fucking weird analogy. I don't know where I started with that, why I chose it, but I just ran with it.
It goes to like where my mind goes is that language is actually a barrier.
Yes.
Good night. Yeah, no, language is a barrier to like actual communication, which is why a lot of like nonverbal communication it's a frequency. Like kind of going back to like what you were talking about is like it is actually a measurable frequency. And that's actually more communication. What do they say? Like 80% of body language is like, or 80% of communication is body language. So that just kind of goes to show that like there's a lot more communicating than what we usually use, or like forms of communication, different types of communication. Like, and the literal vocal one is one of the most limiting. And so I feel like you're kind of tapped into a source that's bigger than that, but really only limited to the actual verbal likeness. You're trying to explain something. Yeah, it's like you're trying to explain an elephant without ever like the back of an elephant, without ever seeing the elephant or knowing what it looks like. So like, that's why it's confusing. And that's why like a lot of people, it's very hard to explain like what you're doing because, I don't know if you've like entirely mapped out what the hell you're feeling.
No, not at all. It's going to be life's work. Like this right here is a very passionate life's work project for sure. That's going to take, like, this isn't going to be done ever.
You're like going to be Nikola Tesla.
Dead.
Maybe not as autistic as him, but
Yeah, I don't know. Depends on the day. But I will say that this has been fun. This has been exciting. This has been an adventure. I'm very grateful for you coming on the show tonight, chit-chatting, hearing ideas, bringing us on your journey, listening to crazy talks of science and thoughts and shit. It was
I
fun.
love this shit.